Winning is the wrong goal. Not sometimes. Structurally, as a strategy for navigating a world where the conditions keep changing in ways you cannot predict, and every time you have optimized for winning, you have made yourself more fragile without knowing it. The person who survives longest is almost never the person who is trying hardest to win. You have a strategy. Maybe it is in your finances, your career, your health, your relationships. You built it to get ahead, to produce better outcomes, to outperform the baseline. You chose the moves that maximize the upside, and you felt like that was the intelligent way to think about it. But every move you made to maximize the upside required accepting more exposure on the downside. You concentrated when you should have spread. You went all in when keeping something in reserve would have cost you almost nothing. You bet on conditions staying roughly the way they were because the conditions staying roughly the way they were was what your strategy needed to work. And the conditions did not stay. They never do. And when they changed, the strategy that was built to win became the thing that made the loss worse than it needed to be. You were not playing the wrong game. You were playing the right game with the wrong objective. The concept is this: in any environment that contains genuine randomness, which means any environment you actually live in, the goal is not to maximize your gains in good conditions. It is to still be standing when the bad conditions arrive. Survival first, everything else second. A forest that burns completely has nothing left to grow back from. A forest that loses 30% of its trees in a fire recovers. The trees that survive are not the ones that grew fastest in good years. They are the ones whose root systems ran deep enough to keep them standing when the ground caught fire. Deep roots cost growing speed. For most of the tree's life, they look like a disadvantage. They are not a disadvantage. They are the only thing that matters when the fire arrives. Your strategy has been optimizing for growth in good years. The question you have not been asking is what your root system looks like. In October 1987, a 32-year-old portfolio manager named Victor Niederhofer is running one of the most successful commodity trading operations in the United States. He has produced consistent returns for years. His approach is built on selling options, a strategy where he collects premium payments from investors who want insurance against large market moves, and he pockets those premiums because large market moves, by his analysis of the historical data, are rare enough to make the strategy consistently profitable. On October 19, 1987, the Dow Jones Industrial Average falls 22.6% in a single day. It is the largest single-day percentage drop in the index's history. Niederhofer's positions, built on the assumption that this kind of move was too improbable to plan for, are destroyed in hours. He loses everything. He rebuilds. By 1997, he is running a fund again and producing returns that attract serious institutional money. In October 1997, a currency crisis spreading from Thailand causes a sharp drop in global markets. Niederhofer is again short volatility. Again, the move is larger than his model anticipated. Again, the fund is wiped out. Not reduced, not damaged. Gone. 2 separate decades. 2 complete wipeouts. The same structure both times. A strategy that collected small, reliable gains by selling protection against large moves. And large moves, the ones his model said were too rare to plan for, arrived and took everything. The strategy was not careless. It was precise. It was built on real data, real mathematical models, and real historical patterns. The problem was not the analysis. The problem was the objective. He was optimizing for winning in normal conditions. And the event that destroyed him was not normal. The deeper issue is that strategies optimized for winning in normal conditions tend to look identical to good strategies right up until the moment they are not. They produce consistent gains. They generate confidence. The confidence produces more concentration. The concentration produces higher returns in good conditions and a complete absence of any buffer when the conditions change. Nobody building a winning strategy feels like they are building a trap. They feel like they are being smart. The trap and the smart strategy feel exactly the same from the inside until the day they stop feeling the same. In 79 AD, the Roman city of Pompeii has been a thriving commercial center for centuries. It sits at the base of Mount Vesuvius, a dormant mountain that the inhabitants have farmed, built on, and named landmarks after for generations. The mountain has not erupted in so long that the local population has no collective memory of it erupting. It is simply part of the landscape. On the morning of August 24th, Vesuvius erupts. The city is buried under meters of ash and pumice within hours. The people who survived were those who left early, the people who stayed to protect their property, their businesses, and their winning positions in the local economy did not. They were not irrational for staying. They were optimizing for the outcome that had been normal for every generation anyone could remember. The problem was that the event capable of ending everything was not in anyone's memory, and the absence of the event from memory was being used as evidence that the event would not occur. You are doing some version of this right now. You have a position in your finances, your career, or your life that is built to perform well in the conditions you expect and has no flaw if those conditions change sharply. You know this on some level, but you have been using the fact that the sharp change has not arrived yet as evidence that your position is sound. You have been confusing the absence of the bad outcome with the safety of your position. They are not the same thing. The bad outcome not arriving yet is not evidence that you are protected from it. It is evidence that it has not arrived yet. The principle is this: before you optimize for winning, build the floor that means losing does not end the game. In practice, this means holding something back that is not part of your strategy. Cash you are not deploying. A skill you are developing that is not required by your current situation. A relationship you are maintaining that has no immediate return. A financial buffer large enough to survive a scenario that feels unlikely. None of these things help you win in good conditions. All of them are the difference between the bad year being recoverable and the bad year being the last one. What you give up is the feeling of full deployment. The sense that every resource you have is working toward the outcome you want. Full deployment feels like seriousness, like commitment, like you are not leaving anything on the table. But full deployment into a winning strategy removes the slack that allows the strategy to survive contact with a world that does not cooperate with it. What you get in return is optionality after the bad event. The capacity to still be in the game when everyone else who was fully optimized for winning is trying to figure out how to start over. Survival is not a consolation prize. It is the precondition for every gain that comes after. The people who won the most over long periods of time were almost never the ones who optimized hardest for a single outcome. They were the ones who built their position so that the bad outcome, when it arrived, left them still standing with something to work from. Most people do not find this out until the event that tests it has already arrived. By then, the choice about how to build the floor has already been made. You already have a position. It was built with a specific objective. And the objective you were using when you built it is going to determine whether you are still in the game when conditions shift in ways you did not plan for. The position is already built. The floor is already there, or it is not. That is what you are working with. Next video. The people who survived every major collapse in the last 200 years, financial, political, and institutional, were not the ones who predicted it was coming. They were the ones positioned to survive it, regardless of when it came. There is a specific structural quality that separates those two groups, and it has nothing to do with intelligence or information. It has to do with a single decision made in good times that most people never make. Most people wait for the bad conditions to start preparing for them.